Are you considering divorce? Are you dealing with it now? Are you on the other side and not sure what comes next? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show with your host, Lisa C. Decker.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Decker, certified divorce financial analyst, real estate collaboration specialist in divorce, and the founder and CEO of Divorcetown USA and Divorce Money Matters. Divorcetown is the show that, the site that sponsors this show, and we are glad to have you here today. I want to introduce you to my lovely assistant, executive assistant, and co-host Marcella Kripe, who helps behind the scenes and during the show and with client matters. So Marcella, we see you here and there and everywhere. What can we expect today?
Well, thank you, Lisa. This week, we're going back to school with Stephanie Robbins, a licensed clinical social worker with over 20 years of experience in working with individuals, couples, and families. She has a thriving therapy practice in Alpharetta, Georgia, where she is also a parenting educator, speaker, trainer, parenting coordinator, and mediator. So Stephanie wears a lot of hats, and she's definitely qualified to talk to us today about our topic, which is going back to school and communicating better with exes and parents. Welcome to the show, Stephanie. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you for having me on the show today. I'm excited about this topic. It's a good one.
It is a good one and very timely. Lots of kiddos are getting ready to go back to school, and parents are running around trying to get everything ready, and that can create some frayed nerves. So how can you help co-parents, exes of each other, but co-parents? How can you best help them to communicate with each other and with their children and with the schools? Let's start with, communicating with each other.
So it's always good when the co-parents are able to speak respectfully to each other and communicate with each other regarding their child. A lot of times people have in their divorce decrees specific setting up about information sharing. A lot of times they will specify if they need to send the, information through emails, text messages, or use programs like Our Family Wizard. Those are the best ways. Calling your ex about issues might not be the best because sometimes when we get on the phone, we get emotional, we do a little too much information, or it's not as focused. So if you're going to correspond, talk with your ex to find out what's the best way to talk to them and communicate. A lot of times it's best to maybe send out an email once a week or a text message if there's an emergency. If you are going to communicate something regarding your child in school specifically, always use a friendly tone, a professional tone. You want to talk to your ex as if they are like a professional person that you would talk to your boss or coworker. You want to keep all your emotions out. You want to keep it very short and sweet. The keep it simple method. You want to keep it brief. If you are going to send an email, I always recommend putting in the subject line whatever the subject is. So if it's back to school, you can write back to school, and then in your email write specifically. Bullet points are always good, as people don't want to read lengthy paragraphs. Again, you want to keep it child focused. You want to keep your emotions out of it. Some other great tips about with corresponding is to make sure that you get like in there, you in the email that you write some sort of deadline if you're asking a question. So you can say, please respond by Friday, or if you're not able to do this, please let me know by this date. That way your ex knows to respond and not just leave the email open and leaving you hanging. That's never fun, not knowing where to go. Communication with school, once the kids are in school, I don't know how your different custody visitation plan is, but if the kids are going back and forth to each other's homes, they might have homework assignments or projects, and how you're going to communicate with your ex regarding that? Are you going to drop off the science project at their house? Are the kids going to take it on the bus? What if your child left their homework at home, or if they left their art supplies? Communicating things like that ahead of time before school starts, so that once the school goes into session, that you're not stressed out, and you don't want to stress out your kid.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a whole lot of stuff you just shared there. I totally agree about the being brief and doing the written communication. Not only does it kind of take some of the emotion out of it, but you also have a written communication dialogue there that you can show your attorney if necessary. And so keeping a log of things is also very helpful. Not that you're trying to stir any trouble, but it does help to have something in writing should something come up. What about when you are now going to have children in the schools and both parents want to communicate with the school professionals and educators? Do they need to have a copy of the divorce decree or the settlement agreement to understand the terms that you both are to abide by, or the parenting plan?
Yes, Lisa, that's a wonderful question. Yes, the schools do require that the parents provide a copy of the divorce decree or settlement agreement, including the entire parenting plan. Different schools, you have to find out which way the school wants it. Either they want to print out copy or upload to certain portals. Nowadays, everything is paperless. What you need to do is contact administration to find out what they need. If you are newly divorced and this is your child's first year with the parenting plan and agreement, you may want to make an appointment with the administration, either with like the principal, vice principal, or even with the counselor, to discuss the different ins and outs of the decree. A lot of times the schools get overwhelmed or nervous about divorced parents. They might have had a history of parents that were like high conflict, or there were major issues. So the school needs the specific information. Some of the information that they need is, who is the primary parent? What is the custody schedule? Also final decision making, who has the tie breaking. A lot of times the school gets confused. They don't understand legal custody, sole custody. If you don't understand what that means, talk to your lawyer, look it up. Typically legal custody is when both parents have the legal custody of the child. That means they both have access to the records. They're both involved in the school decisions and what's going on with the kids. Sole custody is when one parent has all the decision making and the other parent does not. So being able to communicate that to the school, and then the ins and outs. So when you do talk to the school about the decree and the settlement agreement, you might also want to send an email, again, with like brief and bullet points. Some specific issues that you might want to bring up is, how is transportation going to work with visitation? I know a lot of times schools are not sure if the child should go home with this parent, that parent, or grandparent, or neighbor. So providing all the information at open house, if you go, with people's contact information on there. Also knowing the protocol with setting up conferences and IEP meetings and different things. If there is the final decision maker, the school explaining what that means. The parent has, if both parents cannot agree, then the person that has final decision makes the decision on whatever it is. And with the final decision making, some parents think, oh, that means they can just control everything unilaterally and not discussing with their other co-parent. That's not true. They definitely have to have discussions, but some issues that come up are like, should my child take advanced math, or, I want my child to be tested for IEP. Those are some of the issues where final decision might come up, or even changing schools. A parent can't just take a kid out of the school and transfer schools. Those are issues where you might have to get the courts more involved if you're going to change. So that's about the best, kind of the more brief about the settlement agreement in school.
Well,
I'm
that's
glad
very
that you said
important.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephanie, because it is true that sometimes parents don't understand the legal language of their decree. So that is really important that parents understand what it is that they should and shouldn't be doing and can and can't do, so that that can be made clear to the educators who are not attorneys. So yes, they want a copy of the agreement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to understand all the legal terms either. And just one thing I know from living in Florida years ago, that one school department there, they made a rule that they would only talk with one parent. They wouldn't talk to both. And so that was something that had to be decided on in the parenting plan up front in that particular county. And obviously that means that the communication between the parents has to be really, really good. So that, and we'll talk about that later in the show, so that both can be involved.
And
Yes.
I will say also that, you know, teachers have so many things to keep up with and so many students to handle. And so by parents condensing this into a succinct list with bullet points, names, phone numbers, making it as easy as possible on the teachers and the administrators will help them to help you to follow things through in the correct way. It's also, I think, helpful. You mentioned talking with the guidance counselor, for the guidance counselors to know what's going on at home and having them check in on your child just to see how they're doing through the year. You know, sometimes the guidance counselors can become a fabulous support system for children whose families are going through divorce in the school system. So it's good to have everyone involved for the benefit of the child. It's not to disparage your spouse. It's to get everyone on board to make sure that your child's needs are being met in the most efficient and helpful way possible.
Very well said, Lisa. And you know, the guidance counselors might also have resources. A lot of times the schools have divorce support groups for the kids, where they can meet, you know, specifically it could be like weekly or monthly. Other kids are going through some of the similar issues. A lot of times parents that are considering divorce or just starting getting divorced, they may want to contact the counselor to let them, give them a heads up, because there might be some behaviors that the kids might be exhibiting that the school can look out for. If the child's more withdrawn, seems a little bit more easily upset, or seemed to not have as much focus, or has some anxiety over some issues, or even like the kids having some negative social interactions, possibly getting in fights or having problems with friends. Those are things of behaviors where the kids might be exhibiting, where the school would be, it would be helpful for the teachers to know what's going on. And also that if they're going to discipline the child, to understand where that might be coming from. But
absolutely, I think that communication all the way around is vital, because kids act out in different ways. Like you said, some withdraw, some you know, cry more often, some get into acting out in ways that they normally wouldn't. And by letting those who are the front lines around them, the teachers, the administrators, know what's going on, everyone can be that support system for them. And it really is helpful to your child and to you. So what are some tips that you can give us for helping a child's teacher ensure that your child has the best support and involvement with both parents? We've talked kind of around this, but this is a little bit more focused now.
so when school starts back, typically the parents and the children meet the teachers for open house. That is a good time to just make sure that the teacher has both parents' email addresses, their phone numbers. You may want to take the teacher aside and say, you know, we're from a divorced family. We would like to have communication with both parents, if possible, regarding like conferences or, you know, updates regarding homework assignments. If the school has some sort of portal, make sure that both parents have access to the portal. They may have different passwords, different ways to access that. The thing is with the teachers, they don't mind when parents want to be involved. They just don't want to have extra steps. So wary of like putting too much pressure on the teachers and causing, like if you didn't receive like a grade from your child's homework and the other parent got it, please go to your other parent first before you contact the teacher. The teachers don't need to get between parents' communication issues. One of the things when my daughter was younger, a lot of times in elementary school, they have a lot of homeworks that come home in folders. But when my daughter was younger, the homework folder went home on like a Wednesday, but my daughter would go to her father on Thursday. But the teacher's like, no, the folder goes home on Wednesday, comes back Thursday morning. Well, I had to speak with the teacher, and her father spoke with the teacher about maybe like with my daughter extending that to Friday. We were hoping that that was not going to cause too much trouble, and over time it worked out that way. My daughter's father was able to help my daughter with any homework, or if there's questions that he may have had. So asking little requests like that. Another thing that was helpful when my daughter was younger was visitation pickup times. People's parenting plans are all different. You might have the week on, week off, or the 2-2-5-5 schedule, or pick up every other weekend. And it's confusing to the kids, and it's confusing to the teachers and school bus drivers and different things. So what I would do is write out a calendar and show which dates that my daughter's father would be picking her up, or if I was picking up, or another family member, and highlighting those. The teachers want to make sure the kids get like on the right school bus or on the carpool line. So having that, plus the kids, when they're younger, they may not be as reliable with the calendar. You can go into your child's agenda and writing, on their, mom's weekend, dad's weekend, things like that are helpful too. But another thing that you can do with the teachers is, making sure that if you do have a conference, like set up, that they invite both parents. A lot of times they'll communicate with one and the other parent feels left out. So it is your responsibility to make sure that the teachers include the other parent. So if they're like, oh, we want to do this conference on this date, you can say, well, I would like you to email the other parent to see if that date works. It's sometimes more directly if the school contacts the other parent regarding that, instead of you going behind the scenes with your other parent. That might be like a little struggle that you might have, or there might be miscommunication. You really want to find out from the school when's the best time for the teachers, and then work your schedule around them. So
those are great tips. And I love that you are putting the focus on helping the teachers to help your children the best way. I have a lot of friends who are teachers. I have the utmost respect for teachers. They are highly underpaid, underappreciated, and far too much overworked, but they are the front lines in making our children's future happen in the best way possible. And we need to applaud them and support them in all of that, and not put more pressure on them. But I also love what you said about not being the sole parent that's communicating, unless you have good communication, right? It's if you set it up properly from the beginning of the school year, or in the middle of the year if the divorce happens, then to say, this is how we'd like to communicate, where the teacher emails both of us simultaneously. And it would be most helpful if we could do this and do that, and not trying to add burden to the teacher, like you said, but working within the means of the school system and in the best way possible to communicate for everyone involved is so imperative to having a good outcome for the teacher, for the staff, for your child, and for both co-parents. So these are great tips, Stephanie. Tell us a little more about, how you work with parents, how long you've been doing this, just so our audience has some background knowledge and understands where you come from in this space.
So I've been working in private practice for a little over 20 years. And I first was specializing in children, ages 3 and up. And as my practice has developed more and more, I'm now working more with like teenagers and then adults and couples. But with working with teachers and families, I always felt like it's very important to involve the parents in the kids' lives throughout their schooling or extracurriculars or different things. And I like to help parents advocate for themselves so that they can advocate for their children, putting their children first. The teachers that I work with, I also see teachers in my practice. They a lot of times get stressed out by families, and I want to reduce the teacher stress with that. So my whole goal in my practice in helping people is to reduce conflict, create peace and harmony in families, and also helping people find positivity in their lives and coping with some adverse situations.
That's beautiful. We all need that in the world. We definitely need that in the world. There's so much going on in the world that is upheaval and stressful, and whatever we can do to reduce that and minimize that and bring peace and harmony into our classrooms and into our homes is priceless. So I'm so grateful to know you and all the good work that you're doing out there. So are there any other suggestions that you have? You kind of mentioned bus drivers even, I feel for the bus drivers because I see them trying to keep a track of, what children are going where and when. And, we've had some fabulous bus drivers over the years, and we've had some that just really didn't keep good track. And I think a lot of it has to do with overwhelm for them too. So just other folks involved in their lives. We're talking about children overall here, grandparents helping out, neighbors. What can parents do to effectively co-parent through all of the ancillary people in their lives to make sure that they're helping out in a way that is in sync with the parents' wishes and for the best interest of the child?
That's a great question. And, it takes a village to raise a child, as we hear. But you definitely want other people that come in contact with your kids. You want to make sure that they're on the same page, that they're aware of what's going on. With the bus drivers, getting, talking to them and saying, typically on this date, like on Thursdays, my child will be doing car riders. So if they don't go on the bus, do not be alarmed. Or, I actually had a client family where there was a nightmare situation where the other parent showed up at the bus stop, and the bus driver knew the parents were divorced. They saw this other person at the bus stop. The bus driver did not know who the other parent was and was afraid to let the child off the bus. It's a safety precaution. So they ended up taking the kid back to school. And then the parent was upset because they didn't have their kid and they had to go all the way back to school. So that could have been avoided if the parents said, hey, the other parent's going to be coming here on Thursdays. They're going to be at the bus stop. Just wanted to let you to be aware. The bus drivers really look out for our kids, and they want to protect them and different things like that. Also, sometimes parents will move to different areas that are within the same school district. So also the child might be dropped off in this one neighborhood during so many days a week and then dropped off in another neighborhood for the other days a week. That can be on different buses and confusing too. And then a lot of times, sometimes I will tell parents, maybe it might just be easier to do carpool with your child, so there's not as much confusion. I will tell you, I like taking my daughter to school. On the way to school, we connect, we talk about things, we try to set the tone for the day. I can help my daughter study for any type of test that she might have coming up. And then in the afternoon, I can pick her up, and sometimes she'll bring friends home and we'll go get Slurpees at the gas station, or on the way home, she tells me about what's going on with her friends and how school was going. Sometimes the keeping the child in a car environment is when the kids will talk. Now, a lot of times parents will ask their kids, how was your day? And the kids go, fine. Well, you have to learn to ask those open-ended questions like, who did you sit next to at lunch? Or, in PE, did you run that mile? Which my daughter always avoided those mile runs. So,
it's funny though that I've noticed they like to bring up questions about sex, in the car, right? Because it's safe. You're facing this way, they're behind you. They can ask things that are a little embarrassing. But you're right. The car is a great time to communicate for those parents who can. Look, not all of us can do that, but take those moments wherever you can seize them. And that's what you're saying here. And you had also mentioned family law, not family law, our Family Wizard. We work with family law software, but our Family Wizard is a wonderful software that allows parents to communicate through the software. It keeps a record of all the communications. You can write notes to each other. You can keep track of expenditures, and it all can be very handy if indeed you do need to take your ex to court for non-compliance of something. So, not again wanting to do that, but it's also a great place to make sure that everybody's in sync and on the same page. No trying to keep up with emails and texts and different modes of communication. Keeping it all in one place can be extremely helpful. We do have a link to that in our marketplace at Divorcetown USA. You can look for the Our Family Wizard link there, and that will take you right to the website and help you determine if that is a right product for you.
We are going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, Lisa. I also wanted to let people know, Stephanie had talked about scheduling and journaling and calendaring. And we actually came in contact with a mom out in California named Fiona, who developed a journal for her kids called Home Sweet Homes. And that's also available on the marketplace on Divorcetown. That might be something too that might be good for your kids to be able to, it's something they take between homes. And maybe they might even be able to use it like for tracking homework and that kind of thing too, that both parents can access. But it would obviously be something for a little bit of older kids that, want to keep track of their own stuff as well. Just throwing that out there.
That's a great reminder. You can find both of those. And what was the name of that product again, Marcella?
It's called Home Sweet Homes Journal.
Home Sweet Homes Journal. And you can find both and many more resources, products, programs to help you at divorcetownusa.com in our resources section and in the marketplace. And we have videos and articles and all kinds of free things, and help yourself to the Divorcetown roadmap too, folks. It helps you to get your divorce started right. So thank you for that reminder, Marcella. So you want to tell us what's coming up next?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. So we'll go ahead and show everybody a picture of the Divorcetown roadmap for those who would like to go ahead and download it. This is a free ebook that will give you some good ideas and direction on where you may want your divorce to go so that it's better and healthier for you and your family. We also want to remind you about the free divorce financial fitness kit. This is an ebook. It's also a working spreadsheet, something that you can do on your own, help you get organized, help you gather your documents. And it includes a 50 must ask questions for your attorney. We also have the Divorce Help and Hope support group available through meetup.com. You can also go to Divorcetown USA, go to the events section, and there you can see all of the upcoming meetings for the Help and Hope group. It is free of charge and it is open nationally to anyone who would like to join us. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have coming up next week. So next week, we're going to talk about dumping our divorce diamonds safely, effectively, and profitably. Oftentimes at the end of a divorce, people are left with jewelry, maybe jewelry that has bad memories associated with it. Maybe it's just jewelry they don't want anymore, don't need. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do with that jewelry and also how not to be taken advantage of during what could be a very vulnerable time in your life. So next week, we'll be talking with Shreya Mehta. She's 4th generation at this. She knows what she's talking about. She's very good at it, and she's going to offer us some great suggestions. So that's everything we have for you this week. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you again next week on the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. Thank you so much, everyone.
And I also want to add, Stephanie, thank you for being on the show. You can find Stephanie as one of our profiled and premier members on divorcetownusa.com, and you can read her articles and other things that she's contributed there. And Stephanie, if you also want to give out any professional information on how to reach out to you, you can do that real quick right now.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to be with y'all, and I love speaking to the community regarding important issues that people are going through with divorce. The best way to reach out to me is going through my website to find out more information. It's www.alpharettafamilytherapy.com. And if you reach out on there, I can respond back within 24 to 48 hours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you missed that, find Stephanie Robbins on divorcetownusa.com. All right, Marcella, thank you. Let's wrap up here. And if you are listening live, please stick around. We'll be having a question and answer session live after the show.